Hello everyone and welcome back. It's your host Michelle, aka Chat-Mort, and thank you so much for turning once again to my humble little channel. I just wanted to make this video really quickly while this thing was happening. As you all know, with internet time, if you don't talk about something like within the 3 days that it happens, it's not relevant anymore. So I apologize. This is going to be kind of muddled and rushed, but I just wanted to say a couple things real quick. Also, I didn't ask tech support husbando to go away. He's gaming, so if you hear him in the background, I apologize. I wanted to say this really quick while I was thinking about it. So, for some reason, I guess because it's tea, everybody likes tea, everyone likes drama. This video came up in my recommended feed on YouTube, and it's by this girl. I believe her name is Stephanie Sue. She's this adorable mukbang YouTuber girl who I'd never heard of before now. And she made this like video sort of exposing Nikocado Avocado. Now, unfortunately, I think most people know who Nikocado is. He's this just disgusting, insufferable, whiny, obnoxious mukbang guy. He's kind of a troll in the same vein as Trisha Paytas, except even less tasteful, you know, and less likable. Yeah, that's how bad it is. That's purely my opinion. I don't mean this as harassment or anything. I just do not care for him. Have you ever seen somebody who's got a face that just makes you angry and you have to like leave the room? That's how Nikocado is for me. Seeing his face makes me it makes me feel the same way as like when you forget to take the trash out for 3 weeks and then you open the lid of the garbage to put something in like that. That's not very nice, and that's not the point of the video. Regardless, so this girl, I apologize if I get her name wrong. I will correct it later. Her name is Stephanie Sue, I believe, was doing a video where she talks about how she was going to do a collaboration with Nikocado, and they followed through with it. They filmed 3 videos, I believe, and the much bigger mukbang guy, Nikocado, was really, really emotionally manipulative, really nasty and predatory. He just kind of treated her in like a really mean girls type way, which to this very sort of diminutive, timid girl was not just off-putting, but kind of traumatizing. She starts the video by mentioning that she was sexually assaulted at some point in her own home, and that she genuinely never thought that she would feel that kind of violation again. She didn't depict it as if it was something violent. She was kind of vague about it, but basically what happened to her in the past, she articulated it as being a situation in which she was not allowed to say no. Something like that. She was assaulted in that she was pressured very strongly into something, and her input was not it was not something the person was interested in, you know, or they didn't give her the opportunity to say one way or the other to make sure she didn't get the chance to say no. Essentially, something horrible happened to her in the past. I'm not going to debate that. I don't know this girl, obviously, but I don't have any reason to suspect that she's lying about that. It sounds like a horrible thing, and my heart goes out to her for that. So she frames the video using that, and she talks about how she went through this process of this guy, Nikocado, was in the area that she lives in. They plan to film 3 mukbang videos together, and if you don't know what those are, they're just videos where people like eat big amounts of food in front of the camera and talk to it. It's massively popular. I don't understand it. It's a lot bigger in some Asian cultures than it is here. But like Nikocado got popular because he screams and cries and has hissy fits and is violent and theatrical and childish, and you know, smashes food and hits it with brooms, and he acts like a character, a really insufferable character who you can't stop watching because it's so grotesquely fascinating. To give you some context as to why this guy got so huge here in Western culture, when typically the mukbang stuff is way more popular in Eastern cultures. What she says happened is that the first time they met, he was very welcoming to her. He made her feel very comfortable to the point where she felt comfortable enough to open up to him about this horrible thing that happened where she was sexually assaulted. So she poured her heart out to him and kind of put herself in a compromising position by telling him some really, really personal things the first time they hung out. To my knowledge, you need to watch her video because this is just my secondhand account of what I remember from watching it once. but she felt like she could trust him. She made herself very vulnerable to him, this much bigger YouTuber. And he repeatedly said that he wanted to do collab videos with her, and she was not comfortable with that. Finally, she agreed to. I think he was in the area with her, and they filmed two videos. They were going to film three. She had confided in him about another person in this genre on YouTube who she met, who she might have done a collab with, who was very off-putting to her and kind of annoying. She didn't hate this other party at all. She just found her to be kind of off-putting, and their personalities didn't mesh. So she mentioned this to Nikocado. Now, when they were filming their videos together, the collab video for his channel, the two collab videos, I think they were for his channel, he brought it up completely unbidden, seemingly. He kept prompting her to say really like shocking, derogatory, like scandalous things about her. He kept prompting this girl Stephanie to talk about this girl who she didn't get along with publicly, for his millions of subscribers. This was really alarming to her because she thought she made it pretty clear that she didn't hate this person. There was nothing scandalous or blackmail tier that she had on this person. She didn't want this public drama conflict with her. She just didn't get along with her very well when they met. So the way she explains what happened is that Nick kept attempting to kind of ambush her in his video they were filming, trying to prompt her to talk about this person and make it this big public debacle. This made her feel extremely uncomfortable. She felt really pressured, and she felt very intimidated, which makes sense because he's a much bigger channel. He's a very kind of obnoxious, intense, sort of like bitchy middle school mean girl in your face kind of personality, as you can see in the footage from his video that she uses as evidence. So her claims about his demeanor are backed up or correspond with his demeanor in his videos. Now, from what I've seen of Nikocado's videos, which is not a lot, he seems like a sociopath. I mean, what YouTuber isn't? We're all kind of insane. We all have a very particular mix of self-loathing and narcissism, or we wouldn't do this insane shit to ourselves, like we're doing now, like I'm doing now. From what I've seen of his videos, he seems like an atrocious human being. Yes, he's trolling. He's trolling in a much more garish, heavy-handed way than Trisha Paytas does. And I also want to give a quick side note. If you don't know who any of those people are, you're much better off, don't worry. But I just want to point out, I do not believe for a second that anything about the previous drama between Nikocado and Trisha Paytas was real. I think it couldn't be any more transparent that was manufactured by both of them for attention. I don't believe for a second that any of that conflict was authentic. None of it. They both lied in their videos about each other. They both made up inexplicably out of nowhere. They both did things during this whole process of their conflict that completely contradict what they're saying their feelings were about those people and what their perceived feelings the other people had for them were. That was, in my opinion, that whole thing was completely manufactured. Everybody who got suckered into it and got really mad at Trisha Paytas or got really mad at Nikocado, you're being suckered, okay? People are using your inclination to believe them and believe that people are not lying to you on the internet. They're using that to bolster their careers and become more relevant, and people fall for it en masse. So anyway, I think Nikocado, he seems like an atrocious human being. That is totally my perception. This is not harassment or anything. I'm not trying to be mean to him. But he seems like a sociopath. He seems like a total narcissist. He just seems like an insufferable, really nasty, really self-centered person, which is evidenced by the fact that he admitted in one of his own videos that he cheated on his boyfriend. They broke up, and over that weekend, he slept with 14 different guys and then gave a disease to his boyfriend from that weekend. This is stuff that he has made public himself about himself. He has not made any attempts to conceal the fact that he is just a completely self-centered, short-sighted sociopath. Just an insufferable, very bad person. So, throughout this whole video, she keeps citing the list of different things that constitute as emotional manipulation. And the whole video is a statement based on all of the evidence that she brings forth that basically hits every item on the list, that he is an emotionally manipulative person. He basically gaslit her. by saying, well, you said you wanted to talk about it in the video, that being the like little conflict she had with another YouTuber she thought was between them. She thought she talked to him about in confidence. You know, according to her, he kept saying things like, well, you were the one who brought it up. You were the one who wanted to talk about it, to the point where this girl, she thought that she talked to him about all of this in a way that made it clear that she was just confiding in him in private. But he was so adamant that she had implied to him or outright stated to him that she wanted to like make it this big controversial thing that she talked about publicly in his video, where he's got a platform of millions of subscribers, that she began to doubt herself. She seems like a very, very meek, diminutive, submissive kind of person, which I can absolutely relate to. I'm not as much of an obnoxious, insufferable moron in the real world as I am when I'm talking to you guys through a webcam, you know? So he was so insistent about this, and he was so demanding and left so little room for her to even respond to him, that she genuinely began to question, maybe I did say that. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I didn't make it clear enough that I was explaining this to him in confidence. Now, if all this happened the way she said, I don't believe for a second that he wouldn't do something like this. All of her accusations about him emotionally manipulating her, pressuring her into trying to make this like big debacle conflict video where they're both like crapping on another YouTuber that she happened to not get along well with. She was traumatized by this, genuinely. And in the video, she's very tearful. She's almost incapable of speaking. She's so distraught at times. She comes across as very, very genuine. You okay, Edman? Hi, Ed. It's okay, honey. I know. I know, funny face. You're a good boy. She starts the video by mentioning her sexual assault that she does not talk about on this channel anymore, and how if you've not been through something like that, it's hard to understand how you can feel that violated in your own home, how you can feel that unsafe in the safest places anybody could reasonably be. Now, throughout this video, she also very effectively punctuates that by showing footage from her security cameras in her home, where she would come home from these collabs they were shooting, you know, in between the days when they were doing them, and she's like rocking and shaking and crying on the floor, and her boyfriend is consoling her and like kind of shaking her by the shoulders, trying to snap her out of it. And she shows on the security camera how she's like in the fetal position on the floor, and her boyfriend like builds this big fluffy bed of pillows around her and just sleeps with her on the floor, like stroking her hair. It's a really, really bizarre thing to include in a video like this. It's captivating. It's hard not to watch. It's fascinating because it is such a weirdly personal thing to include in a video. But the security camera is showing up in the little corner of the video feed that this is happening on the days during which they would have been recording their collaborations. It's a very strange choice, but it's a very effective choice, because it punctuates and hammers home what she said in the beginning about how violated she felt in her own home way back when somebody violated her physically and didn't give her the opportunity to say no. And she shows video evidence, unless this is all staged or something outlandish like that, which I can't say anything like that, where she is in her own home and she clearly is so distraught and feels so pressured and violated that she seems like she's having a mental breakdown, you know, after having come home from doing this collaboration with this much bigger YouTuber who basically ambushed her in the middle of filming, trying to get her to start talking about all this stuff publicly that she thought she told him in confidence. Then she goes into explaining how they had this really nasty text exchange the next day, where she shows screenshots of how she's incredibly apologetic to him after avoiding him and not knowing how to tell him she didn't want to come back because she was so scared of upsetting him, which I totally understand. I can totally relate to that. She shows the screenshots and reads how nasty and dismissive he was, and outright manipulative he was in his responses to her when she's explaining how distraught she is, how uncomfortable she is, how she's really, really apologetic, but also very confused because she thought she made it clear that the things she was saying about this other YouTuber were just her confiding in him. She apologized that she ever gave him the impression that she wanted to talk about it publicly and make it this big exciting debacle on the internet that would hurt this other girl's reputation, you know, because these two big mukbang channels are bad-mouthing another one. And then after starting her video that way and punctuating it by actually showing security camera footage of her having a breakdown and like rocking and shaking in her living room that night after filming, at the end of the video, she bookends the other end of the video in a very, very effective, very smart way by saying, I really never thought I would feel like that again. And I told myself I would never get into a situation or in a position where I would feel that way again. That out of control, that pressured, like I didn't have the chance to say no. The way she explained this video and the way she interspersed the footage of her kind of mental breakdown at home after that day of filming where he ambushed her and tried to get her to talk about this stuff she wasn't comfortable about for his huge audience. It's a very, very effective video. You know, there are times when she's extremely distraught and then, you know, it cuts away and she's very calm again, which makes sense because when you get that upset, if you're going to pour your heart out on a personal subject in a video, sometimes you do have to stop and collect yourself. You don't want to just be blubbering for 20 minutes, you know? So that is not necessarily manipulation on her part. Everything she says about his demeanor in private and the screenshots she shows of her texts with him after telling him, I'm sorry, I don't want to do our third collab video. I'm sorry I gave you the impression I wanted to make this stuff public. I felt really uncomfortable. I'm not coming back. I'm sorry. Everything that she says about him, all of the claims she makes about Nikocado's demeanor, perfectly align with the way he acts in his videos. Perfectly. He does seem like an incredibly self-centered, nasty, sociopathic person. He has basically painted himself to be that. How much of that is a troll personality and how much of that is him, we don't know. But he has put himself in a pretty bad situation here by painting himself to be the exact kind of self-centered, narcissistic sociopath that she painted him as in her own story. The reason why I wanted to make this video is because we have to be extremely careful about things like this. I don't mean to accuse this girl of lying. Obviously, I have no clue what's going on with the situation. She's very compelling. She's very sympathetic. The video is edited in a masterful way that makes it one of those things where upon the first watch of it, before sitting and thinking about it, there's no way you wouldn't believe her. She is extremely convincing in her editing, in the way she framed and explained all of this, everything about it. The problem is we need to be extremely careful about jumping to conclusions and just believing accusations. Cancel culture is a very, very dangerous thing, and we've seen this before. The same people over and over and over again, and I have been one of those people, I am very guilty of this, have fallen for these things because the accusations stack up to the way these people portray themselves, you know, in the public eye. Because they're detestable people, because they're unlikable people, because we subconsciously kind of want to see them hurt because they seem like they deserve it, even if we don't have proof of it or we can't put our finger on why we feel that way. That happened with James Charles. And all of a sudden, probably when he lawyered up, all of a sudden Jeffree Star and Tati were they were like, oh, well, we're not stooping to this level anymore. We're not talking about this anymore. We're going to patch things up and we're going to be the adults in this situation. So millions of people believed the accusations about James Charles, even though he was able to prove basically that none of this happened. And despite the fact that some of the things in the accusation videos against James Charles even didn't quite stack up, if you sat back, thought about them critically, you know, and just compared them to other things that the accuser said in the videos. This also happened with ProJared. And the funny thing is that because ProJared is such an unlikable douchebag, despite the fact that people leveled horrific, outright slanderous claims against him that ruined his career and got them a bunch of fame and attention and got them a bunch of art commissions, people refused to admit that they were wrong about ProJared. People refused to admit that they helped destroy his career by pushing these slanderous lies. It's very, very strange. Very strange. a lot of people who said they learned their lesson after the James Charles thing then went on to do the same thing to ProJared. And when it came out that these people who leveled these vile accusations against him were lying, and they explicitly admitted on their own Twitter accounts, they walked it back and said, well, I never said he got pictures of us as minors knowingly. I just meant he's creepy. People are still emphatic about trying to retroactively ruin ProJared's career, even though he came out and said, it's my word against theirs. You can't believe them any more than me. We're on an equal playing field here. And he showed evidence that, yeah, he's an arrogant, egomaniac douchebag, but he never solicited nudes from anybody underage, or at least you can't believe his accusers any more than him. And his own accusers, took back what they said when it started coming out that they were lying. And then they both deleted their Twitter accounts. I hope he sues them into the ground for what they did to him. I hope he does. I think he's a douchebag, but that doesn't give anybody the right to slander somebody, destroy their career and their reputation, and then benefit from it and just get away with it. And I think all of the people who, after all this stuff came out, after he came out with his video defending himself, continued to insist that he did what his accusers even said he didn't do, I hope those people get sued too. And I hope he wins. We need to be extremely cautious about believing people when they come out with accusations like this. I haven't really seen any evidence to prove it. Unfortunately, it's not something where she could actually go to the police, I don't believe. So it's not one of those situations where it's like, well, if you come to the internet with this to cancel somebody instead of going to the police, I don't believe you. Because what he did to her, according to her, is awful and inexcusable, but it's not a situation where the police could do anything. He doesn't seem to have stolen anything from her. What he did, emotionally manipulating somebody, gaslighting somebody into thinking they're crazy by being really intense and demanding and scaring them, by having a way bigger audience than them and waiting till you've got them in your home to start demanding they talk about private things publicly, unfortunately, it's not illegal. So it's not one of those situations where you can just rule out everything this girl says because she didn't go to the cops first. There's nothing to go to the cops for. The thing is, there are some things I think she could have done in her video that would have made it a little bit more convincing. Now, this is not foolproof, but she could have shown us her phone, and I do not believe she did. She showed us screenshots, relevant screenshots, where parts of text messages were cut off. But she didn't do what other people have done in their videos because it's so easy to doctor screenshots. Everybody can do it. Everybody can do it for free using internet software that costs you nothing. She could have picked her phone up. She could have clicked text messages to show us that was real. She could have tapped on his messages and scrolled. She could have pulled them to the side so you could see the timestamps on them. She could have done things that she didn't do that would have made it seem much more concrete that none of this was doctored or taken out of context. Because that has happened too. Like the thing, I believe it was with ProJared, things were taken out of context to make them sound much, much worse than they were. And when he showed the full context, it showed that he was telling people, you can share nudes in this group, but you have to be of age. Are you of age? Then okay, as long as and the thing that happened with that Slazo guy too, some British YouTuber who all of his friends just decided, we're going to take him down. So we're going to say he did something absolutely vile and ruin his life. And everybody believed them. Till it came out later that they just decided, well, we don't like this friend anymore, so we're going to destroy his life by accusing him of something heinous. This stuff happens a lot. And we need to start being a little bit more cognizant about this stuff before just believing someone. If you look at James Charles, he's really, really bratty and obnoxious and inappropriate with people in his videos. The woman who accused him, Tati, is very soft-spoken and diminutive and gentle, and she's this very sweet, unassuming woman. So people just believed her because it made sense for James Charles to have done the things she accused him of. All I'm saying is we need to be very careful not to just see this very beautiful, gentle, soft-spoken girl who becomes very emotional on camera and automatically believe what she's saying. The other thing that is very inconvenient for her is that she says he was filming her without her knowing about it. So he was filming her on a camera or a phone, and things that she thought that she said to him in private, he actually filmed them. And was threatening to expose her by posting these things that she didn't know she was filmed when she said to Instagram. Like, he was threatening to expose her on Instagram, saying he's got video footage and audio clips of somebody, and he's going to expose them for screwing him over. And he's very clearly making fun of her. He and his friends are mocking the wording she used in one of her text messages to him publicly. She's being bullied by like 10 different people who all have 1 million+ subscribers on YouTube, and some of these videos he's posting. They're not saying her name, but they're making fun of the wording she used in her excuse to him why she didn't want to come back and film the third video after he made her so uncomfortable the first 2 days, which is disgusting. And it seems like it's something he would do, very much so, and this is very much corroborated by his own like Instagram story videos or whatever he posted these videos to, where he and all of his big popular friends are making fun of her without using her name. The thing that is very unfortunate for her is that one of the things that she says makes her feel so violated is that she went to the bathroom once while he was at her house during this whole period where they were going to do some collaboration videos. And he had been asking her about her security system. He wanted the fancy security system that she has, allegedly. And she was talking about it and all the cameras she has. And it makes sense that if you've got as much money as she does from having 1.5 million subscribers, and after being assaulted the way she was, you would want cameras in every part of your home. You would start feeling paranoid. I didn't have security cameras in my house until after somebody ransacked everything and stole my car this summer, So I totally understand why she would have the cameras. And then the one time Nikocado was at her house, the one time while he was there when she went to the bathroom, she says that she has footage on her security cameras of him wandering around and looking up at the ceiling. And you would never be looking up there unless you're looking around her house for security cameras. So the implication that she left hanging there is that he was making sure he wasn't on film so he could secretly hit record on his phone or a camera and get dirt on her. So he could have some kind of drama if she badmouthed the other YouTuber or whatever. The thing is, and she explicitly states this in her video, is that in California they have like a 2-party law where it is not legal to post footage of someone if they are not aware of it and they do not consent to it. So it would be illegal for her to post her security camera footage of him looking around her house the second she walks out of the room to make sure she doesn't have security cameras anywhere around and snooping around. 1, the snooping around is incredibly creepy and inappropriate. And 2, she strongly implies that he was probably checking to make sure he wasn't being filmed. So when he turned on his phone or his camera to film her, to make sure things she said in confidence were there for him to leverage against her later if need be, or hoping he would get footage of her bad-mouthing the other YouTuber for tea and stuff, she would be breaking the law if she posted that security camera footage of him doing that. Unfortunately, that's very convenient for her as well, because she can just say this happened, cite this law, and then we're inclined to believe her, because why wouldn't you believe somebody saying somebody did something that's horrible to her, as emotional as she was and as sweet and diminutive as she is, But it could be that footage doesn't exist, and we'll never know. Because if it did exist, I'm sure Nikocado would not consent to it being posted all over the internet to make him look bad. She could, of course, post the security camera footage of her having a mental breakdown in her house about all this stuff he did to her, and of her boyfriend trying to comfort her, because they both consented, They were both aware they were being filmed, and they both consented to it being made public. But that's just another one of those things. It's very unfortunate for her. It's either very inconvenient or very convenient for her that it's not legal for her to post this footage of him looking around her house for the security cameras that corroborates her belief that he was filming her and recording things she was saying and doing without her knowing it. Because that's the only time in which he could have started some kind of recording device that she didn't see him start in the house. That's the one time he was at her house where she was not with him and watching him. Because she's scared of what he's going to do, of what he's going to take out of context, because she's so scared of how many big YouTubers are on his side and believe him and are his buddies no matter what, She's trying to get out in front of this and give her side of the story because she has no clue what he's going to do with what he has on her, with the stuff that he recorded her saying and doing without her consent or knowledge. She wanted to get out her side with context to protect herself, regardless of what he's going to say, regardless what all of his super famous, powerful, rich friends are going to say. And that is as noble and believable and sympathetic of a motive as any to make a video like this. I am not saying that this girl is lying about this. I am not. But one of the things that she gets very emotional about in the video, and completely understandably so, is that he, in one of his videos, makes fun of the Me Too movement. He's telling the story about how he wanted to sleep with this guy, he expected to sleep with this guy, and when the guy went home and didn't give him what he wanted, he was really angry about it. But he wasn't going to grope this guy because then the little Me Too movement thing would happen. So she shows footage of Nikocado in another one of his videos being really dismissive and belittling toward the Me Too movement, and basically saying that the only reason he didn't grope some guy without his consent, who he wanted to sleep with, was because he would get Me Too'd. That was very tasteless of Nikocado to do. It was really douchey and gross of him to do. But she cites this and proceeds to get very emotional because the Me Too movement is something that helped her come out and talk about having been assaulted. It was a way for her to have her voice heard. And many women have rightfully benefited from the Me Too movement by being given a platform to talk about something horrible that happened to them that they were either too ashamed or too intimidated of, or just didn't have the opportunity to come out with and talk about after something horrible happened to them. And this is kind of, it could be seen as a pandering thing that this girl does in her video, because she goes off on this tangent about how disgusting it is that Nikocado belittles the Me Too movement when it has helped so many women come out, and talk about assaults and harassment they've been through. And the problem is the Me Too movement is the whole reason why my first inclination when I see an accusation like this girl's is to not believe it. The Me Too movement has been used by so many women to slander men, some of whom have committed suicide afterwards, some of whom have been able to provide exonerating evidence, but it's too late because their reputations are ruined, they've been fired from their jobs, they've lost all their friends, and people hate them. The Me Too movement has been so perverted by women who know that they can accuse a man of something and take advantage of people's likelihood to believe them and be kind and compassionate to someone who says they've been assaulted. That very movement is the reason why I hear things like what this girl is saying and I don't believe them. Anytime I hear somebody say they were assaulted, my first inclination is to not believe them. And that was not the case before the Me Too movement. That was not the case before it came to light on such a large scale in so many different instances that there are so many spineless scumbag people out there who are willing to just spit in the faces of everyone who has been assaulted and manipulate their credibility, actual victims' credibility, to get what they want, to destroy other people's careers and to get credit, like Zoe Quinn has done. That's something that definitely gave me pause in this video. It comes off a little bit like political pandering, because there are still people out there who say, well, if you don't believe someone the second they accuse someone else of assaulting them, that's on you. There are still people who feel that way. And there are absolutely victims whose lives have been improved by the Me Too movement. They have been validated and they have been able to seek out help and comfort and compassion and just validation from people because this movement gave them the opportunity to. The problem is the movement also allowed a lot of people to destroy innocent people's lives, and that's something that a lot of people won't acknowledge. Everybody here on my channel, I'm sure if you're watching my channel, that's what you think of the Me Too movement too, I'm sure. You see it more as all of the women who have been exposed to stomp on and manipulate the credibility of actual victims to destroy good people and get what they want. The Me Too movement factored into the James Charles thing because people were more likely to believe someone who said they were assaulted or somebody who says that someone assaulted people than the person who's being accused, even before they have the opportunity to defend themselves. The Me Too movement is also part of the reason why people destroyed ProJared's career and were willing to believe these anonymous kids on the internet about something as heinous as pornographic images of people who were legally minors at the time. And the Me Too movement is also part of why people are too prideful to admit that they helped slander ProJared. To this day, the Me Too movement has been an opportunity for people to virtue signal and get a lot of attention on YouTube and in the media. And to this day, they refuse to acknowledge that they helped slanderously destroy someone's career, because that would mean acknowledging the flaws and the manipulators who have used the Me Too movement to their advantage to hurt innocent people. The same thing happened with that Slazo guy. People are far more likely to believe somebody who says they were victimized or groomed or assaulted by someone than they are the person who's being accused. That's the main thing that gave me pause in this video. So there are a lot of things that are unfortunate in this video. The fact that she just showed cropped screenshots of these conversations that corroborate her side of the story and didn't, show them on her phone, which can still be doctored and manipulated. You can still delete messages, but it makes it a little bit more believable, it makes it a little bit harder to have doctored or manipulated evidence. She can't show the footage of him snooping around her house the second she walked away and went to the bathroom when he was there. And she went off on a tangent about the Me Too movement and is attacking him for being on the skeptical side of the movement, despite the fact that the movement has allowed many people to slander innocent people. And those are the people who should be condemned here, not the people who have seen the false accusations and therefore don't believe victims. The people you should be condemning are the manipulative abusers, the slanderers who have used the credibility of victims, who have used the Me Too movement and destroyed its credibility and its merits by falsely accusing people for money and attention and sympathy that they don't deserve. So my point here is just that I'm not saying this girl is lying, but we need to be very, very cautious about believing somebody's story if there's not concrete proof of it. This is an awful situation for her, because even if it did happen, there's nothing to go to the cops about. What he did is atrocious and scummy and disgusting, but it's not illegal. But because somebody is detestable and insufferable and atrocious and doesn't deserve the fame and the notoriety they've got, I'm sorry about my heater coming on. That's really loud and obnoxious. I apologize. But just because somebody is insufferable and doesn't deserve all the fame they've got does not mean that they are guilty of something they're accused of that would knock them down, take them down a peg, You can come to whatever conclusions you want to. She seems very credible in her video. The way it's edited, the way the footage of her having them breakdown in her house is interspersed is incredibly effective. The way she framed the video like an A+, like 110 out of 100 essay, where she talks about the assault, which is a very effective emotional appeal because that's a horrifying thing to happen to anybody. And how violated she felt in her own home. The way she showed how violated she felt in her own home through that security camera footage after Nikocado basically ambushed her during filming and kept trying to pressure her into saying things she wasn't comfortable about saying publicly. It was very effective how she interspersed herself rocking and shaking and crying on the floor and at her little bar in her kitchen after coming home from that collaboration video. And then ending the video with that incredibly impactful statement about how she promised herself she would never feel like that again. She would never feel like she was in a position where she couldn't say no again. She would never get in a situation like that again, or she promised herself she would never feel like that again. And then Nikocado made her feel that way. Incredibly effective. So articulate, so well structured, like some kind of professional expose video or like an essay. That's what makes me a little bit wary. I feel for this girl because I relate to her so much. I relate to her to an unbelievable extent. Wanting so badly to please people, wanting so badly to make everything go okay that you are inclined to believe you are the one in the wrong. having somebody convince you so many times that you said something that you're pretty sure you didn't, that you start questioning what really happened. You question your own memory, things like that. Being too scared of a much bigger YouTuber or something to say the wrong thing, and not wanting to upset somebody, and not wanting to cause problems with somebody. I can absolutely relate to having poured your heart out to somebody, having given somebody compromising information about horrible things that have happened to you, and then realizing later that that was not a trustworthy person. I can relate to all of those. I've absolutely been gaslit. I've been manipulated before. I've had people put me in situations where I didn't feel like I could say no. I'm not saying I've ever been physically, assaulted by someone, but I feel for her. My heart goes out to her. I can absolutely relate to what she is recounting here. But I want to caution everyone that situations like this, in which there is no concrete proof, in which it's somebody insufferable who you would be kind of thrilled. I mean, in a way, there is a part of me that would be really happy to find out Nikocado was as awful of a person as he seems, and to see him not have millions of subscribers for being a disgusting, whiny troll crybaby who smashes food with a broom on the internet. There is a small part of me that would glean satisfaction from seeing him taken down a couple pegs. We have to be extremely vigilant and extremely careful about not believing everything on the internet. Just because a video is long, just because somebody is well-spoken, just because somebody is emotional in their accusation, does not make it the whole truth. The problem is, no matter what Nikocado says back to her, I'm not going to believe him. Because his accusation, his attempt to cancel Trisha Paytas made no sense. It contradicted itself a bunch of times. Watch Primink's video on it. It's phenomenal. I won't believe a thing that Nikocado says because of that stupid thing that I believe he and Trisha manufactured to get more haters and more supporters on both of their sides, and to get more popularity. It's a very unfortunate situation, but I just wanted to say that. I wanted to make this video real quick while this is still breaking. My heart goes out to this girl. Obviously, if somebody comes to you and says that something horrible happened to them, they were manipulated, they were pressured into something, they were, God forbid, assaulted, the first thing you should do is comfort them, always. If a friend comes to me and says something like that, I'm not going to sit there and think, based on what's happened in the Me Too movement, I can't trust everything that someone says. I have not seen proof that this person is telling the truth, and I don't want to slander or fall for the slander of an innocent person. You don't do that. If somebody comes to you with something like that, your first instinct is going to be, and should be, to comfort them, to get them somewhere safe, to try to calm them down, to try to make them feel validated and acknowledged, and to make sure they're safe, and to make sure they're in a position where it can't happen again. The questioning, the legality of things, looking for proof comes later. My first instinct is to be so sorry to this girl for what happened to her. It sounds atrocious. Nobody should ever be put through something like that, and it just sucks. It sucks, and it's awful, and it looks very much like what really happened. But what happened with James Charles is the way he acts in so many videos on YouTube corroborated what Tati was saying about him. And it still turned out not to be true, It's just, we have to be very, very cautious and very careful about believing accusations like this without concrete evidence. I know this video it's shitty. The position I've taken here is shitty, and it doesn't feel good. It's not a fun thing to have to say, but as much as I think this girl deserves support and sympathy, I also think that accusations this serious that are made on a public platform like this need to be treated with the most critical thinking anyone can employ. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. This came out super long-winded because I don't know how to hit every point without trying to give as much context as possible. Please don't assume that my interpretation of anything is accurate. I miss shit a lot. Watch this girl's video yourself, make up your own conclusion, but I just wanted to give that little fine print with the asterisk at the bottom of the page that we need to be so careful about believing things like this. Because I promised myself after the James Charles thing I would never fall for this shit again. And then I did with ProJared, you know? I don't know the Slazo guy, but I can't guarantee that I wouldn't have fallen for it with him too. And I think of myself as a pretty intelligent person typically. But the way fame distorts everything on the internet, the way our inclination to believe that what we're seeing on the internet is an accurate portrayal of people, we have to be so careful. And that's all. This is just a video of me cautioning everybody about that whole situation as it blows up, as I'm sure it will. You know, everybody's going to be talking about this for a couple days. So that's all. Thank you guys so much for hearing me out. I wish this girl the best. She seems like a really sweet girl, and I would be terrified if I was in her situation, you know. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying we have to be very careful. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share my stuff if you feel so compelled. I did start a Subscribe Star if you're interested in supporting me there, as opposed to something like Patreon. If not, I totally get it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon. Bye.